And that means we get to play the clip. That's the sound he makes. Right, let's get to I don't know what a good.
Well, we can see him probably.
That one. That one. This little man scurrying around the caves. Finally got one of our new enemies. In my opinion, very pure form. And what I mean by that is, he just looks like a dude who does a thing. He just looks.
He looks quite weird. He's quite sharp.
He's got the Hive God look going on, doesn't he?
He's got a jagged thing, and I feel like I'm just gonna get this out of the way. I want to also skip to the end because I just want to paint the picture of how I see this thing, and I think it's a pretty reasonable one.
That's
a bit fits far.
That's good.
That thing, that's good. He grabs you, and I feel like the jagged, spiky, igneous nature of its front part might be the play there, where he grabs you, pulls you in, and impales you. And I think that might be its play.
But the tail must also be the weak point, right?
Probably. If it has any. It could just be like a normal grunt, where its weak point would just be its mouth or anywhere that isn't armor.
Well, in terms of like, if you want to like give like a proper evaluation of this dude, it's like, look, I think, where are you at on terms of species? Because I think it is a glyphid. I think it's a glyphid.
If it isn't a glyphid, then if it isn't a glyphid, then it doesn't make much sense because obviously not bacteria, not lysocyte, like not rivals or rockpox. It's not, I don't know, automaton, not Corlock. Like the only other thing it could be other than glyphid is something new. And I think there is a sliver of an argument for trawler, but I really don't stand by it.
No, I think it's going to be glyphid or I think it's going to be glyphid or brand new. Because it's like the point was like it's sort of like like not necessarily new variants, just like unseen things down in the caves. Like this is like a variant of a glyphid that's been sort of like quite different from the others. It's sort of just been had a lot more time to like evolve and adapt, and it's just like this. It's like adapted to much deeper environments, possibly. It's like a very naturally heavily armored glyphid. It's got like Hive Guard style armor. It's like sort of like a dreadnought looking thing in terms of like its like style, but it's like much smaller, obviously. So it's not a dreadnought. It's like probably somewhere in like the range of like I'd say if we want to make sort of guesses in this region, I'd say it's probably going to come up as often as like probably like a warden, an oppressor type style of like frequency. As in, I think wardens are probably more common than oppressors. It's probably somewhere between the two, I reckon. If you look at like the size and what it does, because obviously if it's a glyphid, it's our ground-based glyphid grabber. And then obviously it's a glyphid, which means it could be on the ground or the ceiling as well. So if you want to give me more points, if it can grab you from the ceiling. I did mention something like that, but when it comes to the actual bingo, the only thing we can really say is grabber, because he's also a bit of a scorpion-looking thing too, which is like the main argument I think for it not being a glyphid, in that it's kind of got a tail, I guess. Yeah, which obviously glyphids don't have tails. But that's like the main argument for that. But the cry is like obviously it's a new sound it's making, which is always good to hear that. It sort of reminds me of the old like Hive Guard teaser, like that. It's like pre-stage cry, sort of hearing a new bug cry, and like the way it walks is also very glyphid-like too.
It's a very deep cry as well, and the deeper cries tend to be the more bulky.
That's why I'm thinking sort of an oppressor level thing. That's the vibe I get. But we need to talk about the camera. We talk about as in we do, because it's come up again.
Yeah, they have layered on a camera filter. Like it is like not Ghost Ships, DRG's camera spotting it right now. Like they are zooming in with a drone of sorts or a camera, and they've just spotted it. Right, that is the impression they have actively portrayed by putting that filter on. and it's it's another camera like imagery perspective, and it's either that they've recently grown quite fond of that type of display, or there's something more to it. I'm hoping for something more to it.
I'm leaning towards more to it, only because we don't have like a theme that we can point towards, and just the theme of surveillance, whatever form that will take in terms of gameplay, which also might not be any. It could purely be sort of like purely thematic. Like it could just be like, I don't know, cameras around or whatever. But like the idea of surveillance of the dwarves and also of enemies is something, and where there might be possibly be tasks involved with recording things. I don't know, that's the only thing I can think of. But like just the theme of surveillance, it is a theme of what we've seen so far. Given that it's something that's come up in two of them now, it's the best thing we can point to as a theme, because it is a theme across these teasers. The theme of surveillance and of recording footage, basically. The theme of footage is a way to put it, but it's definitely worth picking up on. But the guy himself looks like a mean little, not little, a mean, just glyphid, all new species who grabs you with a scorpion-like tail, which is pretty cool. He looks cool. As like a first enemy to be shown, this is actually quite satisfactory in my opinion. I'm definitely not disappointed. And I'm glad we got one as well. I was like, how long is it going to be before we actually get to see one of these guys? And now we see it, and we get to... Fuck, I just knocked my water over. Now we get to cross something off the bingo card, which is Grabber. Luckily, we went quite broad, but it seems to be fairly common. You could consider... No, actually, you wouldn't. I was about to say, would you consider like Rockpox larvae to be grabbers? But that's a kind of a different thing. It's just, they're in a similar territory, but it's not a grabber type enemy. Obviously, the robots had their grabber. That was their nemesis. At least, so I guess in that front, I should say, at least we're not getting a grabber every season, because actually, you don't want it to be too bloated.
No, I did mention it when we put it on bingo list that grabbers. I think if there's too many of them, you're just going to get ragdolled too often, like constantly pulled back and forth. And I think this is an example. This one could be very spicy.
It could also. I'm almost already leaning towards it's actually not going to be that bad, especially if the tail is the weak point. But also the way it looks like it lunges, it's like very quick, meaning that it probably doesn't have time to like readjust its course, so you could probably dodge it quite easily. It will hit if you move out the way. It will hit like the ground instead. Basically, is what I'm seeing. It's so quick. You can't. I think this adjust its course.
Mentioned that the kind of play at the moment is to just like run around them, kite them, and stuff like that. This could be a counter towards that, where basically if you're just running away from them, like backing up in a straight line,
it might have like a really long reach.
You in, like he'd just go in dwarf fishing, and just reel you into the horde, which I think would be pretty worrying.
If you can do it over the horde, then you even get the mortar in there as well.
Anyway,
but that's not what mortar means.
That's enough. Basically, sick. We're finally actually starting to see the enemies.
Yep, and it's a proper new enemy as well. Not covered in blisters. Because I was at first like, is that Rockpox? It's like, no, because the Rockpox looks almost completely different. You get the blisters.
I mean, you could make an argument that it was caused by the Rockpox, except for the very little we know, these new species have just been discovered, like, naturally.
Exactly, and that's what it looks like, something like that, Yeah.
I think, depending on what we get tomorrow, this could be quite interesting, because it's just, the teaser tomorrow is something else, like, something more on the lines of what we've gotten before, which they tend to kind of do. They tend to draw a line between the 2 days and give us different spoilers on both.
Well, that means I hope this marks like the start of like every Thursday we get one of the new enemies. That's sort of how it should be, I guess.
Yeah, but that would kind of tell us that we're looking at like another 4, maybe 5, or maybe 3 new enemies. There's not going to be like a crap ton, just a good number of couple. If we get another one tomorrow, then there might be quite a few. We don't know.
Well, I mean, 3 wouldn't be a lot, but as long as it's not just like already it's not just a different Praetorian or a different grunt. So at least we got that going for them already, So I'm not too worried on that front. yeah, that's it though. I mean, we'll see what other people say though, but obviously that's as much as we can get out of it, I reckon. And I feel like the stuff you said is also fairly conclusive. That's also being quite vague. You know, it's like it's either a glyphid or a new species, which I think is fairly conclusive. It looks like it grabs, and also there seems that as far as the teasers go, there seems to be a running theme of cameras. You know, those points they're fair. They're not like I'm not like making assertions really there, but still, I do want to see what people say, but we'll talk more about that on the stream.
Yeah.
Don't we? All right, that's all then. Yeah. Yeah. All right. Cool. Thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you soon, and I'll see you for tomorrow's teaser as well.